record on this computer. All right, so we're going to do the decimation process, which we're then going to bring in to Maya for quad drawing. We just saved out a new file, a new project. So I just went to File, Save As, and that's because we're going to, when we decimate, it's going to actually reduce some. It's going to reduce some detail in the model, but that reduction is going to make Maya a lot happier because Maya's going to die if we bring it in with a super high poly count. And I'm sure some of you, like I'm at 390, so I think I don't need to decimate on my side, but I need to show you guys how to do it. If you go up to your Z plugins, boom, there's something called Decimation Master in there. So Z plugin, Decimation Master. And then what you need to do first is pre-process all. So it's going to go, I'm going to click this, and it's going to go in, and it's going to go like through all my subtools. Several subtools of the same thing. PM3D Sphere 3D4L. Please change these subtool names to ensure subtools have unique names. So the Decimation Master doesn't like some of our subtools have the same name in here. Looks like PM3D Sphere 3D4. Okay, cool. So to fix that, I can just click on the subtool, click rename, new. Cool, cool. 3D5. All right, so I think that's the only one that was the same name. And let's try it again. Z plugin, preprocess all, and it's going through all the subtools, and it's running some math on it. It does, this step does take a while. So on your end, it might be taking, mine took 9 seconds. I've seen it take, if you have a high poly count in there, it's gonna take longer. But now that that's done, actually I'll wait just in case some of you guys are catching up with decimating or pre-processing, that is. I need to rename a lot. Can you wait a bit? Absolutely. Anna, if you saved out a new file, we can do something different if you want. That's a lot faster than doing that. We can just go to merge, and then make sure everything that you want in, like if you have some subtools that you don't like, make sure they're not visible for this step. But everything that is visible is going to be combined into one tool, so we don't have to worry about that. So you just go to subtool, merge visible, boom, and nothing happened, right? But what actually went down was ZBrush made a new tool for us. It didn't make a new subtool with all of them merged together. It made a new tool. So if you click on that, boom, you'll have this new one out here with pretty much everything merged down into one tool. Very handy. You can go into Z plugin, pre-process all. You could even do current, because that's just going to do this because everything's in one subtool. So do that, and then we can pre-process all again. And ZBrush is going to think. Boom, 7 seconds for that time. Didn't have to go through all the subtools. So did that work for you, Anne? No response, but I'd assume some. I'm trying to merge. If I go back to this, yeah, just make sure all the tools that you want combined are visible, and then merge visible. It's right in that same subtool palette. Yeah, so it looks like nothing happened, but look at your tool panel. There should be a new thing called merged _ whatever your selected subtool was. So it'd be merged _ that, and then when do you see that in your tool palette? It should be above your subtool menu. Yeah. So click on that merged one, Boom, right there. And you should have a subtool. Like your subtool menu will only have that one merged piece of geo in there. Did that work? Well, if that, hopefully that worked. Yeah. So I click on that merge one, yeah, and then do Z plugin, Decimation Master, and then pre-process all. Boom. And ZBrush is going to think for a little bit. And depending on how complex your geo is, that step can take a little while. I think it worked. Yeah, it won't give you any confirmation in pretty cool ZBrush fashion. It'll just say operation completed, but it's kind of tiny. I don't know. It doesn't make it clear that it did anything really. And then you can do percentage of decimation, or you can do like actual like target polygon counts, or like you can even have this down here, right? Like a bunch of different settings. I usually just do percent, and I can. My head is super square now. Is that normal? But the head is super square now. Is that normal? Weird. Did you enable? Is it like a? Did you have a subtool that was square in place of the head at some point? Try posting what it looks like in. Yeah. So that's really weird. It looked like your head. That's strange. Did you have a? Okay. Do me a favor and let's see. Can we go in and is this still working? Okay, yeah. Control Shift click on that square. All right, it should be gone now. Or everything should be gone and you should just see the square. So then I'll just do the same on my side. So it should look like that. Now Control Shift click drag off that mesh to reverse that. So we get the inverse of that. So now my nose is gone, but that square block should be gone on your side. Does that look like your normal astronaut? Does that look like the, like, does it like not have that cube anymore? The body is there, but no head. Interesting. Okay, so I think it somehow just reduced that head. So if you go in, Shift click drag again. Wait a minute. Don't do that. My bad. Sorry. Instead, what we should do is go to split in your subtool menu, split hidden. And that'll split off that cube into another subtool. Then you can click on that and you should be able to just geometry divide, and then it'll subdivide that square if you want to remake it. Otherwise, you can go back in and do the process differently, but it seems as though you had the head on some different, maybe a different subdivision level or something. But yeah, you can feel free to divide that and then get it into the right proportions there. But yeah, so that's just letting you know how to do that. But yeah, so for everyone else, I'm just going to do the regular ZBrush Decimation Master, pre-process all. There we go. And then next step, I'm going to go to that same plugin, Decimation Master. And I'm just going to do 20% of decimation and see how it looks when we do that. So when you go to decimation, I'm just going to leave it at 20% of decimation. I'm going to do decimate all. And boom. So now look at my total points, 79K. It was close to 400K before, but now we're down to 79K. And you'll see that my geometry looks pretty damn similar to what it was. Like, it didn't destroy the form, really. Like, it kept it pretty accurate to what it was. Now, but if you actually tried to go in and sculpt on it, do line fill, notice how everything is like all triangled to hell now, and you're like, oh man, this is intense. So it's not great for sculpting. It's good for basically reducing the model to a level that Maya can work with more easily. I might go in. Let's see what happens if we go one step further in decimation. See plugin, 20% of decimation, and I'm going to do. Let's see if we have to pre-process again or not. I forget. I'm going to do decimate all. Boom. It does not seem to have reduced, so I'm going to go to Z plugin. I'm going to pre-process again. Computing, done. And then I'm going to do decimate all again. Yeah, see, now this is at 15K polys, but it's a little bit too low poly now for my taste. Like, I still want to capture the accuracy of that first decimate instead. So I wouldn't go this low, but it's kind of a sick style, not gonna lie. Like, it kind of looks pretty cool, actually. But yeah, so just letting you guys know. So I'm going to Control Z that. I'm going to stick with this total points at 78K right there. And I'm just going to merge those subtools that I had. You can follow the same thing that I was showing Anne before, but I'm just going to merge down. So I have everything in one subtool. You can still do that merge visible and then click on that in the tool palette, because our next step is to export. So I'm gonna go to Tool Export. And that's gonna export your selected subtool. So make sure you have everything on one subtool and selected. We're just gonna export that bad boy right there, and then it's already gonna save to my final folder, but just make sure that you navigate to that final Art 426 folder, like the actual project folder. I'm just gonna do character sculpt export. And it's gonna give you options for which format. I would say go with FBX, .fbx in there versus OBJ. OBJ is a little bit more basic. I've also noticed a few times that it has separated my model into different different objects, which is not favorable. So I'm going to do FBX. FBX keeps more connections in general. It's like a PNG versus a JPEG for 2D stuff. FBX versus OBJ is the same way here. So I'm going to do character sculpt export in my scenes folder. Boom. And it's going to give you a bunch of options. I think you're good to just leave this as default options. Just click OK. File exported. And with that, it saddens my heart. But with that, we say goodbye to Zbrush. Everyone say bye to Zbrush. Zbrush served us well. Farewell, Zbrush. We hardly knew ye because we don't have a course to teach only Zbrush. So that's why we hardly knew Zbrush. But Zbrush is dope, guys. If you want to get into this stuff, please pursue sculpting and stuff in Zbrush. Because there's so much cool stuff that you can do with it. Also, there's a really really neat channel that I like on YouTube. Let me pull it up. That has like these like speed sculpt type stuff. Let's see if I can find it. There. Like this channel 3DX, he shows you like this, like what prop he made, and then it just goes through his process. Like he's starting in Maya, you just start with some extrudes, multi-cutting, extruding those out, bring those in, more multi-cutting, extruding inward, extruding down. Like this is all stuff that you guys have done, but you're seeing it in like super fast speed. You can even go into settings if you're like curious about how he does one part. You can go into playback speed 0.25, and you can kind of, it's like more visible there. But yeah, he goes through a bunch of stuff, and then you can see that he makes his base in Maya, and then he imports it into Zbrush, and then he starts kind of adding a few spans with a tool called the Z modeler. We didn't learn about that, but that's fine. He's doing this to keep rigid shapes along the mug, and then he divides it up with that same divide tool that you guys have seen before. And he starts kind of going in, carving in his shapes. That's just, it's a brush similar to Damn Standard called Orbs Cracks. A lot of people online use it. It doesn't come default with ZBrush though, so, but you can still achieve the same thing with Damn Standard. And then he's kind of building all those out, doing a lot of sculpting in here. See how far along he brings it in there. And then brings it back into Maya. Since he already created his low poly, he might not be doing quad draw. I wish he was though. Let's see if he does. Oh, maybe, I don't know. Looks like he's doing some brief representation of that. But yeah, so this is a sick channel. I fucking love it. Like it's just hypnotic to watch. He also has his own course. I'm gonna paste in the link to that channel in chat. So I'm also gonna do it in general if you're curious. It's just nice seeing the whole pipeline made super fast there. There's also flipped normals, which is more sculpting stuff if you want to get better in your own time. This is an amazing channel. You can see how they have a bunch of just tips and tricks for everything. Like they walk you through creating your first sculpts and stuff, and talk about baking all that detail down to texture maps. Because we're about to retopologize, right, in Maya now. And how do I export from ZBrush again? Okay, yeah. So before I go there, but yeah, so to export from ZBrush, make sure you have that tool selected. Should be all merged into one. And then you just go to Tool, Export. And remember, I did FBX, and it's going to give you a bunch of options. So select FBX from this drop-down menu here, right under where you input the name. Click FBX. And make sure you just do the default export settings for that, and you should be good to go. But yeah, so we're quad drawing right in a few seconds, and what that's for is to make that low poly base. Now for this class, we're doing low poly base so we can start animating on it, and then when we render out, what we model with the quad draw is what you're gonna get. But with ZBrush and Substance Painter and stuff, what they do in the industry, now this isn't the workflow that I can show in the class just because it's out of the scope of the class. I think it's too much to hit you guys with all at once. But what they do is they take this low poly that we make with quad draw, and they kind of scan their high poly with that low poly on top of it. And what it does is it transfers that detail to the low poly. So you'd be animating on this thing with way fewer polygons, right, in Maya. But then when you do that process, it's called baking. You're going to bake that detail onto that low poly, and then it's going to spit out a bunch of maps. I believe, wait, was it? Someone was talking about normal maps. That's where you'd get that normal map details from on your mesh. So if you wanted some really precise normal map detail, you could go in and bake the high poly straight onto that. But like I said, it's out of the scope of the class. And then for films, what they do, because normal maps, let's see if I can get a good example of normal maps. Yeah. So normal maps bring that detail to that low poly. So this is their sculpt from Zbrush, 6 million polygons. There's no way we're going to be able to animate that. Maya runs slow when you have just a few 100,000 polys on like a rig. It'll, when you're posing around, it goes really slow. We cannot animate with that. So you need to project that detail into maps. So this is that's just a texture map, this normal map right here. And it's just wrapped around that low poly. And it's super sick. If you're getting into the industry, you need to investigate that pipeline as well, because that's how they make literally every like high detailed thing they've done with that process. And this is a good 3D representation of normal mass. Let's see if we can find it. Yeah, nice. And the normal maps are like this. It's like blue. It has three channels, right, for RGB. And what those channels do, it kind of tells light where to point. So the maps look really weird and don't make a lot of sense until you start working with them. But yeah, so that's what a normal map looks like. It would bake out something like that. You just plug that into your normal channel on your shader or in your material. And you guys have seen that a little bit of material stuff, but we haven't done any normal map stuff. But yeah, so if you're going further with that, please investigate that pipeline of baking detail onto your low poly. Absolutely a important tool to have. In movies, what they do is a displacement map instead, which actually you go in and it, like at render time, instead of just rendering that image, it subdivides the mesh like 4 or 5 times and then pushes those new polys into position with a displacement map. It's very similar to the normal map, but it'll offset all that geo. And so that's how in movies they get like even more detailed, because we don't have that luxury on video games, because that's where I work. Everything has to be at runtime, but on movies they get to subdivide that mesh down as much as they want and then render it out from there. It's a really cool process. But yeah, so that's something for the future. If you guys are really hyped on just making environments or characters, you can do either of those things. You can go into environment art and then you'll only be working on environments, or you can go into character art and you'll only be doing characters. They're kind of interchangeable. I've seen some people swap fields, but it seems as though in the industry people find one and stick with one. Character art is a little bit more difficult, I hear, at like the top level. Like it's pretty hard. But you'd probably be starting out as environment and then kind of transition into the character art field. But I don't know, everyone has their own paths in their career. So I would say just choose one and try to stick with it. I'm all about being specific in your skills. You know, if you're looking to get a career in this stuff, always go for specificity and being good at it. But yeah, so we've exported from ZBrush, and now we need to import into Maya. So I'm going to go into my viewport over here. Let's go to File. This is just a brand new scene. Nothing crazy about it. In fact, I'll just save this scene as, and I'm going to make sure you're in your project folder. That project folder that we made a couple classes back. Please save in there. I'm just going to do blacksmith. I'm going to do blacksmith retopo because we're retopologizing. Boom, right there. And my first step, file import. And I'm going to import that character sculpt export.fbx. I'm going to import that into the scene. Boom. And look at our boy. He's ready to go. He's looking fly, looking fresh. He's ready on the scene. So if we go in, I'm going to first move him. I'm going to move him with just that y-axis. I just press W. I'm just dragging up on that y-axis. And I'm going to make sure that his feet are kind of planted on the ground. Now, I didn't spend a lot of time on the foot sculpt in ZBrush, so I'm going to have to go back in and probably, I'm probably going to have to modify that in Maya. Like, I don't necessarily need ZBrush for just a small detail like that. But yeah, so let's get that leveled out to about where he is. Oh yeah, looking good. And I'm just going to save again. And I just did Control S for that. And now, next step is quad drawing. Now, in order to quad draw on something, you need to go to Set Surface Live or Make Selected Object Live. It's this magnet up here. In fact, I'm just going to do a snipping tool of that region because I know we're gonna lose track of that. I'm just gonna do a snip of that. I'm gonna highlight that magnet because it's so easy to lose like where that is on the UI. Boom. Make, let's see. Make live for quad draw. Boom. I'm just going to save that, or I'm just going to copy that, and I'm going to paste it into help, please. Boom. Make live. Boom. So remember, you have to do that before you go ahead and quad draw, because quad draws, the tool literally won't work if you don't do that. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to click that button. Boom. Now I can't click on my mesh anymore, but anything that I move now will be kind of stuck to it. So if I move this cube around, it is sticking to the surface of that mesh. And that is the point of Make Live. So if I go into my modeling toolkit on the right-hand side now, if I go in, now if I click Quad Draw, I can start putting points on there. I'm also going to turn on symmetry because my character is symmetrical. And we can start making the mesh for this character. Boom. We can just start going in, setting up points, and making some nice geometry. Now, before I start that, something to keep in mind when you're quad drawing is that you want to outline the key features of the geo. So instead of having my edge flow just go across it like this, like if I just left clicked all those points and then shift click them to draw them, that's not really kind of explaining the geo, because on the model we have that really sharp kind of insertion point of the deltoid onto the bone. And we want to represent that in 3D as well. So instead what I would do is when I'm quad drawing, I usually outline all those important things first. So I would get a little bit of a span going like that and something right here as well. So I would start off with something like that. Then I'd wrap it around this way as well. Just because if I have that there ready to go, then I know that I need to kind of conform the rest of the geo to that shape eventually. And I would start off with a few divisions. I'm probably going to try to keep it I always keep it low poly because I work in games. I suggest you guys keep it low poly too. Don't go like super minute. Like I need to capture everything. That's gonna be hell when you're trying to do this stuff later. When you're skinning all that stuff, because we have to texture map this and we have to skin it. So there's a few more steps with this geo. So don't go super high poly. That's why I didn't want us to spend a super long time in ZBrush. But I do want to see you guys try for this. To get some nice appealing models. So I'm just drawing these quads out. And for this, I'm gonna be a bit more, I'm gonna be a bit less detailed. I'm just gonna do, let's do 16 spans. So I'm gonna do, let me just get that in here. 3, 4. I'm gonna do 1, 2, 3, 4 for that kind of that front quadrant. Let's move this a bit up there. And then I'm going to do 4 more to get to the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's move that over. Oh, I'm also going to close ZBrush because it will, like this process, I'm telling you, it is not simple for your computer to do. Your computer will struggle during this. So I want to make it as easy as possible for it. I'm also going to close Chrome because, my God, Chrome eats up a lot of memory, as beautiful as the thing it is. And remember, I'm just left clicking and I'm just shift clicking to draw those points together. Now I could also shift click right here and get a point right there, and then control click to get some edge loops in there. But yeah, so that's, I was just getting those 16 spans in there. Let's count them up and make sure I did. I'm going to delete 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So I only have 15. I need to add 1 more subdivision there. And the reason I'm doing 16 is because if you have an odd number and you go into that, if you go down the arm, as you get to this end point, you're gonna have to close up your edge loops when they reach the end. If you have an odd number, you're gonna have to get like a triangle in there somewhere to even that out. And we wanna avoid triangles. That's just, like, sometimes it's just kind of a formality. Like, you can definitely use triangles in like hidden places where you don't really see. But in the industry, like people wanna know that you can model with quads. Like that's a sought after skill. It's basic kind of retopologizing techniques. So I'm going to move this over here, and then I can just shift click these together and start drawing those. And so this is going to go in the halfway point actually. So I might have to divert this edge loop. So instead of continuing that edge loop along there, I'm diverting it, because this, if you look at this edge loop, that's like halfway on my bicep. I need this one to be halfway as well. I want these to kind of clearly define that shape. Here we go. I'm just going to do more of that. I'm also going to insert an edge loop here. Boom. Start pumping out that bicep. Now I selected the bicep to start with because it's kind of a complex area. It has like a bunch of different curves to it, you know. Your guys' geometry is probably a lot more simple, so you can just do some basic stuff. You just kind of set up your points on the outside of the arm and just keep quad drawing across it. But I'm showing you guys how to, when you encounter more difficult forms, how to sort of approach those. I'm doing the tricep now. I need to keep in mind that shape because it's very definitive in there. and be able to, I'm just setting up those points for now. I'm not actually committing to polys yet. I just accidentally activated the walk tool, which is the most useless tool in Maya. I'm just going to press Alt-X to exit that. And I'm going to select my object and go back into Quad Draw. Yeah, remember, if you press Alt-X, it puts you into this dumb tool called the walk tool that I've never used. And when I first was doing it, I had no idea what was going on. So then I would just close Maya and open it up again, and that would be how I fixed that problem, because I didn't know what was activating it. But yeah, so if you ever run into that, just know that's a walk tool. And oh, I did it again. Cool, cool. And let's go back to Quad Draw. Yeah, walk tool can be the bane of your existence. Something I like to do sometimes, like notice how I have a few spans across there. I want those all to be one though. So if I just drag, if I make a poly off the side here, I just drag that over, then I can just control click some edge loops in there and then just drag these together to merge them or to weld them together. And it's pretty nice. It gets some geo in there quickly. I'm going to continue this edge loop up here, and I'm going to get this to that junction. Now for these edge loops, I'm probably going to loop them underneath the object. So if I go in here, just making that, I want this to loop down there. because I want a few spans under the arm, because in case this guy raises his arm up, because he's a showboater. He kind of like flexes his arms. So if he's doing that, I need more spans under there. That way it can deform properly when he's raising that arm. Because otherwise you'll just get some, you'll be able to see visibly in game when the arm is like tearing at those verts if there's not enough. And let's see. So this is our bottom span. I'm gonna make sure that this links up nicely as well. Right there. And I'm just filling in this stuff. Now I've seen a lot of pros go in and lay out their spans at those crucial junctions. Like they would lay out the spans for the tricep first and the shoulder, and then they do that kind of conforming step last. I don't think that's like, I don't want to confuse you guys, so I'm just going one chunk at a time. And in the future, we might have to resolve stuff like this, because I kind of want this to be a one edge right there. See how this edge now is detailing the side of that, or the outside of that bicep. But then we need to figure out what to do with this. So I'll just hook it up right there. But yeah, so this is the quad draw step, guys. And it takes a while, but I don't know. If you get in the zone of it and just chill out with some music, whew, it's therapeutic, guys. I'm telling you. That's some free therapy, which we could definitely use in 2020. My God, it has been quite the year. I'm just dragging this down there. I'm going to do the same with this piece. It has been quite the year. How are y'all holding up with this year of calamities?
Honestly, not surprised too much about stuff anymore.
Right? I feel like that's so sad that like my and your guys' generation are just going to be jaded like from the start.
It's like an indifference to suffering, and like,
yeah, like I feel like that's not healthy. But at the same time, it's our only option. Oh man, yeah, it is sad. How are your guys' other classes going? Is everyone coping with being completely online? Sandy is suffering. Oh my God, Sandy, no.
I feel like I'm used to it now just because we have been doing this ever since like middle of the spring semester, was it, right?
Yep. Started last year, I think in March.
March. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just it sucks because like I don't get to experience hanging out with you guys. Like I don't know your guys' personalities very much, you know? Like I only know like the text chat personality, which is fine, like that, but like I don't know, I don't get to know my students anymore. That's a sad one.
Yeah, it sucks.
But yeah, so now we're experiencing the classic problem of quad draw, which is I need to make a quad here, but I have a triangle. Fuck, like what do I do there? Like it's gonna be annoying. So this is when the puzzle of modeling emerges, right? And I keep talking about it being a puzzle, and that it's precisely because of stuff like this. Like, how do I get this geo to be all quads? Then
Can't you just insert like an not an edge loop, but like cut through the middle right there, or does it have to like connect to something?
Well, I mean, you're on the right track for sure. I could cut an edge loop here, right there. So this would immediately become a quad. Then, like, what do I do with this part right here, right?
Yeah.
Now, there is that one homework assignment that I gave you guys earlier that kind of touched on this, and it's about reducing those basically like your geo. So if I make a small quad right here, and then draw these out, boom, it's just all quads right there now. And it might not be the super cleanest because I bet I could divert some of these edge loops around. Like notice how this edge loop diverts downward. This one also diverts downward for just kind of no reason. So you might need to go in and be like, okay, if you want like super clean geo, like try to figure out how to, sorry, let me close the window. Don't want you guys snooping on my neighbors. You could like delete that and then maybe cut across here. Oh, make sure that that point doesn't go super far away, and then merge this way. Like there's a lot of things you can do with the geo. I don't think it's super important on this first character that you have like the most immaculate edge flow. But if you run into situations like that, just make sure that you can always reduce geo by 2 spans easily. Like I have 3 edges on this side going into 1. So right here, I know I can just do something like that. If I had a setup that was four.
How do you do that again, Mike? The like drawing like automatically set like quads onto the form.
Onto the form. Well, I have. Do you have quad draw activated?
Oh no, no, not right now. I'm still like working on my on my Zbrush sculpt, but
yeah, for sure. So we're using quad draw. Remember, we're doing a live surface, so then everything snaps to whatever your live surface is, and you can see what it is right in that little menu. And then you go into
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
You go into quad draw, and then you can click you can just left click on your mesh, and then shift click, and it will make a poly right there.
Oh, okay, shift click, got it.
Yeah. So it's every single like tool with quad draw is either shift, control, or alt. There is like tab used in one, but don't worry about that. Like that, I doubt you're gonna need to use tab at all. But control, shift, and alt are all the different things. Like if you control click on a edge, it just makes an edge loop around there. So I can do that with any of these. Notice how since I have a clean edge loop going around that entire form, I can just click right there, boom, get more geo in there right away. Also, you can just pull things together and it will auto weld. That's why it's like such a nice tool. But yeah, remember, you can always reduce 4 edges. If you run into some sort of problem to 2, you can always go down by 2 edges easily. So if I needed to merge these together, what I would do is I'd kind of pull these out, pull these in, make one right here, boom, bang. So it's a simple way to reduce your geometry. So you're going to run into that problem at some point.
Sweet, thanks.
Got it. And to delete this stuff, I'm just pressing Control Shift, boom, boom, bang, and bang, bang. But yeah, so that's quad draw, guys. And we're going to use this method to kind of cover up the rest of our characters. Like I said, it's going to take a little bit of getting used to, but it's not too incredibly hard. And I think it's pretty therapeutic, actually, pretty fun. Just kind of go in, casually make some geo. Because if we're going in without this ZBrush base, it's pretty annoying to make clean forms that like have nice geo to them. I'm gonna be honest, because like ZBrush is all about getting our proportions in the right place, right? We want those to look nice and clean on the ZBrush side. Because we're just gonna go over and remake all that stuff. And I'm gonna start doing some stuff on the torso. Now I have these straps, which are kind of annoying because they're going to be in the way of my geo. So I'm going to first save. Actually, I'm going to save as. Keep doing save as during this step, guys, because Maya is prone to crashing during this. And we have to make sure that we don't lose a lot of process, or don't lose a lot of progress. So I kind of want to make these a separate tool. I don't want to see these on my mesh while I'm quad drawing the torso. So I'm just going to make the surface not live anymore. And I'm going to go in, and this step could take a while because it's going to be pretty damn slow. I'm just going to double click that, double click this, and double click that. I'm just in face mode. And I'm just going to do mesh, separate. And let's see, now we have these separate holes for this stuff. I'm gonna go ahead and make this its own layer, own display layer. We touched on this very briefly, but you can make your own layer and assign those objects with this button, or you could just make a layer and then right click, add selected objects. And then I'm just going to viz those off. So now all those are one tool. I'm going to go back in and mesh combine everything else because I want to. Actually, I might leave the mustache. I might do the same thing with the mustache. Go in, double click all those, mesh, separate. I'm going to click all those mustache pieces. I'll merge those together, mesh, combine, right there. And then I'm going to make that its own layer as well. I'm going to rename these as well. Mustache, just to make it clear what's on those layers. I'm going to do this, straps, there, save. I'm going to viz off that mustache with this V again. Then we have pretty much everything else is looking good to be one piece. So if I go into mesh tool or mesh combine, but all that is one solid piece of geo again. And we can go back. I'm going to go save as, just because I did a lot of changes on that scene setup. And we can go back in and keep quad drawing again. So if I make this live again, go into modeling toolkit, quad draw. First, I'm actually going to click that old piece of geo before I go into quad draw. Oh, whoops, sorry, I need to make this live again. There. I'm going to click that old piece of geo so I can quad draw. That way I can see it more easily, and it will create it as one piece. Because if you just go in without selecting that, it's going to start making a new object as well, which we don't want in this case. So now let's get this in line. And let's start defining these shapes. Just kind of outlining this stuff. Probably gonna need a little bit more detail. I have a lot of detail in the biceps, so I'm gonna need to up this. So I'm just going in with Control click and dragging. I'm gonna try to leave a little bit of area for that, like what is that, solar plexus. I'm not gonna get that detailed, but I wanna make sure that I have some spans there. And feel free to look up videos of retopologizing online. Like they might have a super clear setup for this, but I think it's fine to just freeball it for your first time. Just make sure you're kind of outlining those specific points. I also have that kind of, what is this, the serratus muscles. They're not super detailed, but I probably want like a few polys kind of sitting in that little ridge right there. But yeah. Sandy says that she's coping with the fact that I'm going to graduate next semester online, most likely. Yup. Well, I did hear that testing for the vaccines is in phase 3, which means that they're testing it on actual people. And that's going down at the end of October. So there is some hope. There is some. But that's hoping that the trials go really well and are suitable for the population. But I'm excited. I am excited. So let's go in. Let's see if I can make some more loops here. But yeah, guys, if you're ever lost on any of these steps, feel free to hit me up. Also, feel free to Google this shit, because that's how I learned the first time too. Like there's an endless amount of resources. That Flip Normals channel, they have like a video for almost anything, especially ZBrush. It's mostly like a ZBrush oriented channel. But yeah, that stuff is free knowledge. Free knowledge, guys. And I'm just quad drawing over here. And I'm making sure that I'm doing the same amount of spans as the bottom here. So if I just go in and create this stuff real quick, it doesn't get out of whack. Out. Yes, it's going along pretty nicely. I can always hold shift after I get some edge loops in, and I can just drag over that to kind of see how it smooths out the spacing of those. It's a very useful tool. Just make sure like you're defining lines like this, like that's defining a deltoid. So I don't want to really move that much. So I'm just gonna shift click and make sure I don't go super close to that. That way I don't destroy the geo that's kind of outlining the specific shape of that muscle. I just separated the pockets on my suit. How do I create a new layer and take them off? Okay, so let's find if I can, let's see if I can separate anything else. Oh shoot, well it doesn't look like it. And maybe I'll do the eyebrows. So I'm gonna turn off live surface, boom. And I'm just going to Control Shift S to save as. I am not lying when I'm saying we should always save iteratively and save often, because ZBrush and Maya definitely crash a lot. So if you separated the pockets on the suit, I'm going to do that with my eyebrows. Do edit mesh, or mesh, separate. So now those two bad boys are free floating. You'll want to go to your channel box / layer editor. It'll be this button on the very right side of the screen. Right there. And your layers are all the way down here in the bottom of that big column that it opens up. So what you want to do is you just want to click create a new layer and assign selected objects. Boom. So now you got a new layer with those eyebrows on it or whatever, and then you can just press that V to turn them off. looks weird without eyebrows. And it kind of looks weird with eyebrows too. So I'm vibing with it though. Not too bothered. So I'm going to go back in, turn my live surface on, and turn off that mustache or the eyebrows as well. I'm going to go back in to modeling toolkit, quad draw. Let's keep on going. Let's keep on pushing here. So now I got this triangle. I want to figure out how to get rid of that. I think my best method here would be to Control-Shift, destroy that one. Cut a little edge loop right there. Boom, bang. And then I'm just holding Shift to relax. And there we go. Now I noticed that Maya is kind of going a little bit slow right now for me, right? So the way that you solve that is, or what are the ways that you can help that are going into, and this is another Control-Shift-S scenario. We're going to do a destructive process called deleting history. If you go into File, or I mean Edit, delete all by type, history. It's going to take, it's going to look at every object in your scene, and it's going to see if you have a history of that object. Because when you go in with like multi-cut and you cut an edge loop in something, or like if you extrude out, it adds one node of history to that object. And you can see it in the channel box. You'd see a bunch of different, a long list of changes, and over time that slows Maya down. So absolutely delete that history as you go. Just make sure everything is what you want when you're doing it, because it's destroying history. Like you can't undo with that. Like it's going to actually prevent that. But yeah, so that's how we speed up Maya. It should be more performant then. I'm going to keep going in. I'm just going to do that same speed up of just dragging that poly across, and I can just click drag those into existence as well. Boom, bang, right there. Yeah, so this is quad draw, guys. I'm gonna show, because I also want to show you how to detail, but I don't want you guys to watch me so I can do every single piece of this model like one by one. Let's just do, I'm just gonna do like the feet then. So I'm gonna keep with that rule of 16 divisions on here. Actually, they get pretty fucking skinny. Maybe not. Maybe not. Let's see. I'm just getting in some rough polys for now. Here. And I'm just gonna. Oops. Why is that? Oh. So I think my pants are kind of interfering with the skin underneath, because I have some skin underneath this. Yeah, it looks like it. and those points are kind of on top or underneath the like, see how they're snapping underneath there? That's going to be annoying to deal with. And hopefully you guys don't have a bunch of clothing that's like super close to your skin there. But we can always try to like cut super close and then drag out rather than just doing new points, because sometimes those points might be underneath the surface. If they get created under the surface like this, we can just go in with W, and I'm going to go into vertex mode and see how it's snapping to that skin underneath. I can just hopefully pull out away from the skin, and then it'll go back to the surface there. And it looks like that worked. Hell yeah. So let's make sure. I'm just looking at my points from the side and making sure that they're resting on the outer shell. And it's looking good. Let's count them up. What do we got right now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's make this a nice even 8. Go back in with quad draw here. Boom. Bang. Right there. So we got all those points now. I'm just gonna do it with this low poly count, so you guys don't have to watch me mess around with a bunch of stuff. Let's make some polys down here and try to quad draw those together. So I'm just going to get the general shape in there. I'm also going to add an edge loop right there and just start dragging the geo down to where I need it. There we go. And there we go. Nice, nice, nice. All right. I can start dividing this stuff up too. Here. Some of my points might get placed under the geo again. Looks like they have. So I'm just pulling those out. There we go. And the ankles, oops, that's multi-cut, that is not quad draw. The ankles, I'm just going in, same process as always. Sometimes it won't make the poly, but if you just drag the camera around a lot, you can get an angle where it will be like, okay, that's a poly that I should draw. And you're like, okay, thank you, quad draw, for looking out for me there. And I'm just doing more of the same stuff. This under object is kind of interfering. Like I have two different meshes here, and they're kind of interfering with each other. I could go in and delete those polys of that. Yeah, it might be good. Might be good. I'm going to go into mesh tools. I don't think a lot of you will have this problem. I have a quick emergency, so I'm going to leave class for a bit. Go back and try to log back in. Okay, hey, yeah, that's fine. That is fine. We have life to attend to still, so. There. I'm just gonna keep going with quad draw for the time being. Hopefully Maya won't be too stubborn. Really not liking that geo. Okay, I think I will have to go and mess with it. All right, I'm gonna do that same process of basically splitting this object onto a separate layer, and then mesh separate, and then adding the torso onto the layer and turning it off. Hopefully this will, oh wow, this isn't even, it's like the reverse polys. Oh wow, okay. So I'm just gonna go in with soft select on. This will wreck my computer. Probably hear it overheating in the background. That's fine. Anything for the class, right there. Hopefully these inverse faces being actually inside the mesh will help it now. Mode, make surface live, modeling, quad draw. Let's see. Wow. Wait. There we go. Gotta select that mesh first. Let's go back into quad draw. There we go. Simple and delicious. Let's go. And I'm just making a rough shape of the foot. Remember, my source foot kind of looks like not great, so I'm gonna do just some work in Maya, showing you guys how to fix up that geometry. I'm just kind of quad drawing it into a place where I can show you that though. So there's a separate tool inside another. No, it's actually the because we extracted the pants right in Zbrush, but it's the inside of those pants right here. You see how they go down, like they have some thickness to it. So that inside layer of the pants is kind of interfering with the outside layer, because when you're quad drawing, Maya's like scanning that surface, and then sometimes it'll click on there and then go to the inside of that surface instead. pretty annoying, but you know, it's all we got, so it's fine. But yeah, so we have these shoes now. I can go in and if there's the rest of the if there's the rest of the character in there still, I'm just gonna go in and put the pants on its own layer as well. Name that layer pants. Let's see, and this is torso and head, or I'll just do body. And what was this? Eyebrows, yeah. Oh, that's true. Yeah, it's pretty annoying. But yeah, so we can turn off the pants, and you can see what we got going so far. So like, you can see how we're getting some clean shapes from this quad draw. Like this is looking pretty spicy. So if I go in, I can also make the mesh display soften edge. Make it soft so you can see exactly what that's going to look like in the when we render it out. If you want to make some things sharper, you could always add some more edge loops that kind of convene at that point to make a crease sharper. But I want to show you guys kind of messing around with this stuff now. So we have this geo that's actually just in the scene. If you turn off the live, snap to live surface, we can just use our regular polygonal modeling skills to kind of fix this. Like I think it's bulging out a little bit too much in that side dimension. I can also go in and kind of scale this entire ring down to kind of help as well. I think it's bulging out too much here, so I can just click those points, push them in. If you go back into quad draw though, it's going to try to snap those points to the surface if you start moving those points around. So if you start relaxing those points, if you start doing anything with those points, it's going to keep trying to snap those together. So be careful when you go back into quad draw if you've already messed around with a lot of this stuff. And if I have these boots that I say I wanted, because I didn't actually have them as a model in ZBrush. If I go back to my art sharing, I didn't actually have boots around those legs, right? So instead what I can do is just make them in Maya. So if I imagine this span as like the rest of the leg, so like the rest of the leg goes up there. If I want my boots to come off of here, I can just go in. Since they rest pretty close to the actual mesh, I can just go in multi-cut. And then scale that out, pull that up, scale that some more, right there. I can also fix like the just general silhouette that they make from the side. And we got some boots now. Got some nice boots. And you're probably going to have to go in and fix this stuff. But keep in mind it's a lot harder. Like I'd probably want to have this be a little bit higher poly before I finalize it. At least for myself. Like for you guys, like this is pretty low, but it's still fine. It's workable. Might go in with a multi-cut, cut it up a bit more like this. Start bulging those calf muscles out a little bit. But yeah, so that's how you make new geo. It's just our regular tools. If you had like a metal brace on there, like if you had like some metal pad on the front, maybe you could just multi-cut in that shape. Kind of Control E, extrude out. If you had something like that, definitely possible to mess with. And then if I wanted this to be a little bit more solid of a shape, go in and cut this, pull these edges down, or a rounder shape, I should say. So we're using this like sort of hybrid between ZBrush and Maya for our characters. You can get a lot of good results this way, I feel. ZBrush will solve a lot of the harder problems of like face appeal and stuff like that before you bring it into Maya. And then you can go in and make nice little details and different shapes in Maya with your already existing modeling tools. But remember that with all this extra stuff on there, I cannot quad draw with that that mesh. So I'd have to like go in and hand model this stuff down here. If you've done a lot of like modifying of the geo already. Otherwise, you can just click on like I can keep quad drawing on this torso because it's just super close to what the body looked like. But yeah, so that's it for quad drawing. And your characters are going to be due next week, so please, once you're done doing that, once you've got your character all completely modeled up, I want you guys to go in with another Arnold render. Just do a quick render. You don't have to assign materials to faces or anything. You could if you want, and if you have something that looks appealing, that'd be sweet as well. But I just want to see some nice rendered gray mesh models for just presentation purposes, because since everything's due next week, it'd be nice to see what everyone's been able to create. Because honestly, it's been like what, like less than 2 months, right? And you guys are already gotten like pretty well into creating a character. That's so sick. Like you guys didn't know anything. And I was looking at the renders for the homework too, and those look really nice, like as well. Yeah, I think we're on week 7. Yeah, right. Like this is, you guys are coming along so fast. It's really sick. And there's a few of you that are like if you push on that on your skills, and this goes for anyone. Like if you guys push on your skills, you can have a career in this stuff. That's what I want to see eventually. I want to see a lot of 3D pros come out of CSULB. That'd be so awesome. But yeah, so that's quad drawing and kind of messing with stuff in Maya. I'm gonna cut the recording from this point on, and then my God, it's only 5:40. I'll be sticking around for everyone, because I'm sure everyone's running into a bunch of different problems. So I'll be here to help.